So I want to ask you something really important, and I want you to really sit with this before you give me an answer. And the question I have for you is, how long have you been doing the work? And by the work, I mean things like therapy, journaling, affirmations, seminars, books, coaches, or maybe even going down to South American jungles to do plant medicine work. And maybe like me, you've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in your own personal growth journey. And certainly it's gotten you somewhere. I imagine you are more aware, more articulate about your patterns, and more conscious than you were just a few years ago. And yet, there's probably a growing frustration. There's this thing, this loop. And the thing is that you get triggered and you watch yourself react the same way you always have, even before you started doing this work. You know exactly what you're doing. You can narrate in real time to anybody that's around you. And here's the reality, you still can't stop it. So if that's you, I need you to hear something really important today. First and foremost, you're not broken. And secondly, you haven't failed at this personal development thing. For most people, they were just missing a piece of information that nobody told them about. And that's what this video is about. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes here. So here's what neuroscience actually says about our minds. Our conscious mind, the part of us that's reading the books, doing the affirmations, talking in therapy, setting intentions, well, that part of us is only 50% of our total cognitive processing, just 5%. So our subconscious mind, our nervous system, and our body, that's what represents the other 95%. And here's what's wild. Our brain is capable of processing about 11 million bits of sensory information per second. So our conscious mind, the one that we have access to, can only handle about 50 bits per second, which means that the rest, nearly 11 million bits of information per second, is not being handled by our conscious mind, but it's actually being handled by systems that you and I have no access to. So when we've been doing our affirmations for the last 6 years, talking about how worthy we are and I'm loved and abundance flows to me with ease, you're only talking to 5% of your operating system. The other 95% that's running your nervous system, your attachment systems, your fight or flight responses, everything like that is the part of you that is not listening to those affirmations at all, simply put, because it doesn't speak that language. Our unconscious mind, the part that represents everything that we don't have access to, simply speaks in the language of sensation. It understands safety or danger. It can feel contraction or expansion or a felt experience directly into our body. Anything outside of that linguistically does not affect its performance. So like me, you probably spent a long time, and for me, it was 15 years doing the exact personal development work that everyone told me to do. Things like Tony Robbins or Walking on Fire, NLP trainings, and getting certified in all these modalities that have endless acronyms. And about 13 years ago, I started doing ayahuasca ceremonies in the jungles of Colombia and sitting with iboga and other plant medicine journeys. And they certainly had a wonderful and lasting impact on my life. But I was doing all the things that people do when they're trying to and willing to do anything to transform and change. And here's the reality. I did change. Those things absolutely had an impact on my life, certainly on the outside of my life. My business was growing. My relationships were deepening. By most metrics, I was succeeding in life. And the inside, I still felt like the same scared little boy that had started his journey when he was 19 years old. There was still this kind of hum in my system, this low-grade anxiety that was just not going away and was causing me a great deal of anger and frustration. So this feeling that I was actually performing a version of myself and not actually being myself. And the reality was during that time, I had no idea what was actually missing until I found the work that sits underneath all this mindset work. And the work that doesn't try to convince you that your nervous system feels safe through ideas. The work that goes into the body and lets the body actually lead the healing. And what I discovered 10 years ago changed my life in a way that those first 15 years of conscious effort simply could not. And not because the other work was wrong. I just want to be clear about that. Because it was simply incomplete. I had spent over a decade building on a foundation that didn't exist yet. So what is this work? And first and foremost, let me be real with you. The work is not complicated, okay? But it's also not easy. It requires you to actually show up in a committed way because it asks something of you that most personal development traditions actually train you away from doing. And it's simply this. This work asks you to feel, not to analyze your feelings, not to process your feelings by talking about them, to actually, get this, feel them in your body right now as they're emerging, as they're happening. And there's a phrase that I've used and our company has used for years that gets to the heart of this. And that phrase is simply this: stop trying to make yourself feel better and simply get better at feeling. And that's the whole game. Your nervous system is holding on to stored patterns, incomplete stress responses, moments of overwhelm that your body froze in time because they were too much to process all at once. And every time you try to think your way through them, you're actually bypassing these patterns. And as you know, the body keeps the score. And I don't say that just because it's a fancy book title. I say it because I watched thousands of people have breakthroughs in our programs that no amount of insight or understanding ever gave them. And this is not because they finally understood something. It's because they finally felt something they've been avoiding for years. And their nervous system exhaled. And there's a very particular process that we can do in order to allow for us to feel something that for all these years has never felt safe to feel. So here's the piece that really blows people's minds. In 2026, a study was published in Frontiers in Psychiatry, and it confirmed what many of us in this space have been experiencing for years. And that is that trauma is epigenetic. And what that means simply is that patterns in your nervous system aren't just yours. They were inherited through your parents, through your grandparents, through the stories that your family cells have been carrying, sometimes for generations. And so the stress response patterns, the hypervigilance, the difficulty in trusting, the way our body tightens in certain moments without us understanding why, some of that is ancestral. And here's why that matters. Because if you've been doing therapy, working on your childhood, your relationships, and your triggers, you may only be scratching the surface of what your system is actually holding. And this is not meant to overwhelm you. It's actually meant to give you permission to stop blaming yourself for how hard this has actually been. You've been swimming upstream against currents that were set in motion before you were born. That's not a reason to give up. That's a reason to choose a different approach. So what do you actually do with all this? Well, you can start here, because the next time that you feel that familiar thing, the anxiety, the contraction, the trigger, the loop, don't immediately try to think your way out of it. Just notice where you feel it in your body. Is it in your chest? Is it in your throat? Is it in your stomach? Get curious about the sensation itself, not the story you have around the sensation, just the sensation as it's emerging. And breathe. And you're breathing not to make it go away, but to simply send a signal to your nervous system that it is safe now to feel this. And that's actually the beginning of somatic healing. It's not a technique, it's a relationship between you and the intelligence that lives inside your body. And once you start building that relationship, everything is going to change. Not the way a good seminar changes things, and not the way that new insights changes things. The way that something that was never safe finally becomes safe. That's the shift. And I can't tell you how many students we have that have told us over the years that they cannot believe that nobody ever mentioned the word safe to them, and that cultivating safety is a preeminent structure that's absolutely important for the body to heal. Because if the body doesn't feel safe, it simply cannot signal itself to heal. And this is available to every single person watching this. If you want to go deeper, we run programs of Satori Prime specifically designed for people who have done a lot of work already and are now ready for what lives underneath that cognitive training. The link for you is in the description and programs that you can look at right now. Again, my name is Guy Ferdman. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe this video. I'll see you on the path.